Well, I'm now pleased to introduce Matthew Kokkonen from Capterio, and he will be speaking about innovation through uncertainty management. I want to say a few words about Mr. Kokkonen. He's a seasoned professional skilled in performing portfolio and program management. Having worked for large, medium, and small pharmaceutical and biotech companies, Matthew developed a deep appreciation for the challenges those organizations face. And with that granular understanding, he brings innovative ways of working to plan and deliver value to patients and the organizations serving them. Matthew has extensive experience working in senior roles in both the industry and as a consultant, and enjoys collaborating with stakeholders to build high-performance teams, strategies for growth, and maturations. Another passion of his is developing efficient and effective use of process and business solutions. Matthew started his career as an officer in the United States Air Force and holds an MBA in International Management from the University of London. He earned a project management certification from Stanford University and a clinical trial design and management certification from UC San Diego. He has a wife and twin daughters and enjoys forests, mountains, skiing, and traveling in his spare time. So clearly somebody who enjoys the Swedish way of life. So take it away, Matthew Kokkonen. A Nordic way of life, I meant to say.
That's correct. Yes,
Yes.
It's a pleasure to be here with everyone today. I'll have to ask for your pardon. I'm coming off of a cold, so my voice is a little rough. If I could just confirm that the slides are on the screen.
Yes, they're showing really well.
All right, excellent. Well, thanks for the great introduction. I'm excited to follow up some really incredible high quality presentations, because I think what you'll see here in what I'm about to present, it really encapsulates a lot of the themes and concepts that have been discussed so far. And what I'd like to hope you come away with is a set of tools or perspectives that perhaps you're already applying them, but you can apply them more deliberately after this presentation. And so today I'll be talking about uncertainty and risk and how those are really key elements in our recipe for innovation. Now, innovation is a pretty hot buzzword for quite a while right now. I think the key important takeaway from it all is whether it's large or small innovation, it's critical to continue to innovate so that you grow. As in this picture, you can see that the world in which we operate is very competitive, it's very dynamic, it's easy for good ideas to wither and die. And so it's really these successive innovations that will result in long-term success. Now, I would argue that it all begins with a plan, and ideally a strategic plan. And a plan is there to solve a problem. It isn't the other way around. So the reason why I'd like to stress the importance of strategic plans versus tactical plans is that too often teams working in any industry, but in particular the life sciences, it's easy to get caught into the details, into the minutiae, the tactics of going from one key decision or milestone to the next, and really get involved into the nitty-gritty. And what you do by getting into that detail is you inherently constrain opportunities for innovation. It's also really important to make sure that that strategic plan sets you on a course for a North Star that is relevant amidst the world that I've just described, which is dynamic and hostile to new or even long-standing organizations. Fawcett was a major cutting-edge manufacturer of mechanical calculators, I believe a Swedish company as well. And unfortunately, their strategic plan did not get updated as digitalization came down the path. And so even though they had a plan, it wasn't coursed in the right way. They hadn't defined the problem as to how they were going to evolve in the new technological landscape in which other competitors were operating. And so again, it is really important that there is this plan in place. And as that plan takes shape, it's possible to then evaluate aspects of uncertainty. There's the famous Rumsfeld quote of known unknowns, unknown knowns, and every combination therein. But it's important to understand that it's with a well-crafted plan that you can really start beginning to tease out where the uncertainties in order to achieve that success. Is uncertainty really a lack of knowledge, or a fog, or a black hole? I would argue it is not. Now, there's a lot of definitions actually for uncertainty. The Webster's dictionary, I've pulled out 4, whether it's not knowing beyond doubt, or not having certain knowledge, or not being clearly identified, or a lack of consistency. It's a bit ironic that there isn't a certain definition for uncertainty, but with an appreciation for the breadth of uncertainty, when it comes to innovation, I'd like to share with you a concept that I find quite valuable. And that is that uncertainty is fundamentally knowledge. And in our lives, we operate all the time between a state of making decisions in the complete unknown extreme and the complete known extreme. More often than not, we're operating somewhere in this interstitial space, this gray space between those extremes, and we're having to make decisions. Now, if we start looking at uncertainty as knowledge, we can actually capitalize on the gray space for our own advantage. For example, you could see the arrow move within this space. And what if by using some deliberate thought, we could set a range of possibilities? Anything below the lower end or the upper end is just so unlikely that it's not worth considering. It's now given us some set of knowledge to be able to put bounds within this uncertainty. But if we were to apply some sort of modeling and simulation, we would find that not all of the chances along this line segment are equal. In fact, we would have a distribution of probabilities within this space. Now, a lot of our day-to-day decisions are fairly minor. Maybe it's to make or buy coffee, or to drive or work from home. But imagine if you could start tapping into this for all of your decisions, big and small, and you could start optimizing the outcomes, because if, say, the upper bound is a more positive outcome, I want to be able to understand how I hit that part of the probabilistic curve. And it's in this way that I think life sciences has done a good job being able to look at statistics and probabilities and begin to add to the conversation how to play with uncertainty. But I think that we can do better. First, I want to talk a little bit about another element to the recipe of innovation, and that's risk. Oftentimes, risk gets a really bad rap. The focus is on, in this case, loss or injury, or something bad happening. In drug development, it's delays, it's cost overruns, it's bad results at a key milestone, it's lack of investor funding. There's a lot of risks out there, but there's also a lot of positive risks as well. The Project Management Institute defines positive or opportunity risk as an uncertainty with a positive effect. And so it's important to make sure that as we have our plan and we're evaluating that plan and we're looking at uncertainty, and we're looking at the risks related to that uncertainty, that we understand both sides of the opportunity. Now, take, for example, you're driving down the road at 1,000,000 kilometers per hour. You want to be able to get to your destination quick and easy. And so the opportunity might be getting to your meeting on time or being first in line for something. And so a way of achieving that positive opportunity might be to leave earlier than you had previously planned to achieve that. However, there are plenty of negative risks that are attempting to take us off the road. You know, maybe it's moose, maybe it's ice, maybe it's a biker that's jetted out in front of us. And what we want to be able to do is identify those and appropriately mitigate those so that we can achieve our goal of getting, in this case, to our destination on time. Now, it's with these elements that we can start looking for opportunities to innovate. And quite honestly, with all of this swirling uncertainty, the dynamics of the world, new risks and the opportunities and pitfalls arising, ebbing and flowing, sometimes innovation can be slightly obscured. But it's very important that we look for those opportunities, because if we don't, we will wither and die, because others are looking for those innovations that will put them ahead of us. Maybe in discovering that new drug, maybe in the drug development processes, going through clinic and enrolling our clinical trials. Maybe it's our go-to-market strategy and how we position and which markets we access first. You know, these kinds of decisions need to be made ahead of the competition. And it's through innovation that we can do this better. Now, years ago, I was consulting in the aerospace industry, and my client, NASA, invited me to write a white paper on innovation and help stand up and improve some efficiencies in the applied sciences space. And through my research, I met a academic at University of Arizona who is an expert in this, and they introduced me to the concept of intersectionality. And the fundamental idea is that most, if not all, innovation comes from building blocks that have already been established and finding new opportunities to connect those building blocks in very innovative ways. I'm sure you could take a few minutes and think about a number of innovations that have happened over the years and how fundamentally this is fairly logical. Science over the millennia has built on findings, challenges, rediscoveries to bring us to incredible places in terms of where we are today. But one other aspect of this intersectionality is about how to foster a process in which the intersectionality can be done not just as point-to-point interactions, but as networks across all of these different nodes of opportunity. Now, if we want to open up this door to such opportunities, I suggest it begins with a good inventory of making sure you had all of your elements, your recipe, your complete recipe for innovation. So you've got a good plan. And the plan is to perhaps address the fact that you've got a product that's going to market. Perhaps things are going not as well as you'd like, and you'd like to position yourself ahead of the pack. And you've got a number of different uncertainties with perhaps the demand for that product, perhaps the regulatory environment for that product, supply chain issues, a host of possible uncertainties. And you begin to put those into different categories, looking at opportunities and risks. Well, it's interesting because one of the ways of being able to tackle some of those challenges could be to look at interactions across the value chain, where you've got R&D that often works within their own limited silo and hands it off to CMC, who's going to ultimately scale that up for manufacturing, and commercial has been in and out and perhaps late to the game at opening up doors because they're not really sure about the risks, etc. And what you get is a suboptimal interaction. Now, this, in fact, was identified by another famous company, Electrolux, a number of years ago. And they applied a very innovative process to bring all of those different groups into the same room. And what they found is, as things were being ideated in R&D, there could be immediate feedback in terms of the technical feasibility, the market interest, and the commercialization outlook for that. By running these really tight, highly integrated sessions, facilitated in an expert manner, they were able to achieve some really incredible results with new products that they were able to get to market incredibly efficiently. It was a direct result of these sessions that actually resulted in a bit of a turnaround for the brand. In life sciences, we experience, again, the same kinds of challenges that Electrolux faced and overcame. And so it's in innovative drug development that my company, Capterio, a Swedish company based out of Göteborg, found that there could be some opportunity to make some improvements. Now, across drug development, there's been a lot of good scientific research, scientific methods, and from a planning perspective, top-notch project management, planning, including statistical and probabilistic analysis. But what you may have seen in your career is that a lot of these groups operate in silos. They get synthesized data passed over, and as it works its way down the chain, that data becomes stale, old, perhaps some of the context is lost, perhaps it's not even a complete picture. And what you get is a lot of cycles to rework, follow up on data, and have an actionable picture. Well, Capterio Sum is the product that Capterio has developed, and it brings the drug development process in a highly collaborative and visual environment where all of these silos are connected and a holistic picture is created so that as information comes in, that plan is immediately visible for all of the team members. And thus, as you work through that end-to-end process and build it out, the plan can be put in context with a rich amount of data across all of the different functions that are working in pursuit of launching that future drug to market. Now, importantly, it isn't just bringing that information and data together in a visual way. It's about being able to manage that over the course of the life cycle so that information is fresh and available to key decision makers, perhaps within a function or sitting above the functions in making strategic decisions. And perhaps even more powerful is the fact that that data is being brought into the context of visualization around probabilities and being able to highlight and explore of 10,000 iterations, what is possible? What is the driver to achieve that extreme edge case that could bring us market dominance, to be the standard of care over these other competitors that are launching? It is in this way that we're able to help folks establish that strategic plan, putting together something that's transparent for everyone, highlighting the uncertainty, capturing it so that, again, it's very clear to all participants what is going on in that end-to-end process. And then identifying those risks, positive and negative, and being able to explore in a probabilistic manner what can be done to stack the cards in favor of success and move forward. The success that we have had has resulted in us operating in 10 of the top 30 pharmaceutical companies and a host of smaller and medium-sized biotech and pharmaceutical companies around the world. And it's been interesting to be a part of this journey working with these senior leaders, program and project leaders, statisticians, and even the folks working in clinical trial enrollment modeling, and understanding just how revolutionary this is for their daily life. So often we hear that they hadn't ever been able to talk with this other function, where they simply got this static report and had to figure out how to make sense of it. Interestingly enough, R&D operates in almost a commercialless world too often. They don't understand really what commercial is expecting from a market access and a revenue basis. They're just told to keep their heads down and continue to do good scientific work. And that's important. But going back to a couple of the examples that I shared across other industries, I think that way of working has to change. We need to think about ways to be able to connect those dots so that there is a feedback loop and learnings that can be applied earlier, so that the context that is very important, that patient at the end, is understood, appreciated, and woven into the DNA of that plan earlier on in the process. So here's my challenge to you. You may not have access to Capterio-Sum yet in your drug development planning and strategy processes. But what I would challenge you to do is be deliberate in terms of this recipe for innovation. Understanding, as I think we all do, the criticality of innovation, but hopefully the manner in which I presented it gives you some tools to think perhaps slightly differently about innovation. In a practical sense, how can you be deliberate at meeting your own professional goals, the goals for your organization, and perhaps your personal life? How can you take that strategic plan and really start pulling apart uncertainty as an asset for you to be able to take advantage of those opportunity risks and do a better job avoiding those negative risks? And so with that, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. And I would welcome any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much for that, Matthew. I really appreciate it. And let's see if we have some questions in the Q&A. I don't see any right now, but this was a wonderful presentation. I really appreciate Capterio being available to the audience, and we know where to find you. And so thank you so much for giving this wonderful presentation. And I hope your voice is better soon. But thank you. So enjoy.